Oscar predictions for August. This is the last predictions until the fall film festivals, of which I will be going to TIFF for sure, maybe New York, we'll see. But in a way, this is kind of like the last predictions where we don't have much clarity, because soon we'll be getting reactions for a lot of these movies, and I'm sure a third at least of these movies that we talk about will be straight up ass. But that's kind of part of the reason why it's fun. And as always, leave it in the comments your own predictions. I'd love to see it. Start with Best Picture. Some movement here. We do got some movement. At number one, I do have Oppenheimer. Now, I don't even know if I'm necessarily set on saying that this is going to win Best Picture, but as of now, it feels really hard not to go for Oppenheimer. Not that it feels inevitable or undeniable, but let's face it, this will be among the nomination leaders at the Oscars. It's in winning contention for a fuck ton of awards, and it's really hard not to ignore that right now, especially where other movies, who knows about their ceiling. Now, is this movie a little too cold and still lacking in the emotion and heart that, some smaller indie films have known to do? Maybe. We'll see how it goes. I'm very curious to see how it plays out, but right now, honestly, I do have Oppenheimer at number one. It'd be a really good pick. I love Oppenheimer, but, we'll see. Two, I have Past Lives. Now, the nomination ceiling isn't that high, but I'm still riding off the passion and the fact that it makes people cry and sob. I actually disagree with people saying that this movie has lost steam. I just think that's the nature of when two huge movies come out, like Barbie and Oppenheimer. It's just natural for the talk to go to them, and the other ones kind of lose it. But honestly, we know this movie. We know what it is. This movie will be here in the conversation with the rest of the year. I have no doubt about that. Now, it does have passion. Now, I don't think it's on the level of Everything Everywhere or Parasite, but you can't deny the fact that it makes people cry is a huge deal. And honestly, the reason this is at number two is because this still feels like the absolute front runner for original screenplay, and we know how important that is. So Past Lives is at number two. Number three, Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't really need to repeat myself on this too much. I feel like I've been talking about this movie for fucking 3 years. It's going to get a lot of nominations. It's Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry not to be blah, blah about it, even though I literally just did that. It's just, we know. We know what the deal is with Killers of the Flower Moon. Absolutely win competitive in a lot of categories as well. Now, there is some talk on will Oppenheimer and Killers almost cancel each other out. I think that is a very simplistic and reductive form of reasoning, but I get it. Whatever. It's at number three. The Holdovers is at number four, similarly to what Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon do, even though it would pain me. Is there a case that The Holdovers and Past Lives duke it out for the smaller indie film that makes you feel good, or at least makes you feel? Possibly. The Holdovers will go to TIFF. It is right now the absolute presumed TIFF People's Choice Award winner. I feel pretty strongly that this movie just will get into Best Picture. I mean, that would be a huge disappointment on it, and considering all the talk about it, that would be pretty nuts. We will have to see if The Holdovers can leapfrog Past Lives as that one movie that just makes you feel good inside. It has a chance. Dune Part 2, obviously there is still some talk on will this movie get moved, and let me just say, if this movie gets moved, don't even know what to do with my life anymore. But regardless, I'm going to keep it in as of now. And however good I think the second trailer, or just the trailers, I guess, but the trailers of Dune are, in terms of its cinematography, in terms of how it looks, the fucking sheer scale of it all, maybe it just doesn't even matter. I personally think that Avatar: The Way of Water is better than the first one, and it got into Best Picture, yeah, but it just didn't even nearly replicate the same thing that the first Avatar did. I guess there really is that feeling of we've done this before, we've seen it. And also the talk of Dune being a trilogy does not help the case for it. If this was definitively the end, and Denis Villeneuve and Warner Brothers have said this is the end, I'd probably bump it up higher, but it doesn't feel like it. It's at number 5. 6 is Saltburn. We finally have some images for it, and we know it's going to presumably Telluride and opening the London Film Festival, I believe. Got some images. They look good. I'm really excited for this movie. Now, the thriller talk of Saltburn makes me a little nervous, just because we know, for whatever reason, the Academy doesn't bode well with thrillers, which still makes no sense. Someone will have to explain that to me. It still has a chance to, even if it's really good, to just not perform as well as we think. But, with the huge 10, I'm going to have it at 6. There's no reason for me to doubt it right now. 7 is Barbie. Now, as a huge fan of Barbie, gave it 5 stars upon first watch. If you saw my review for it, you heard me say that I was still skeptical of its chances in picture or whatever. To be fair, I did not expect it to blow past $1 billion in 2.5 weeks and be literally the Top Gun Maverick of this year. And honestly, I think if I remember correctly, it's actually outpacing what Top Gun Maverick did, by a significant amount. So I think Barbie has reached a point where genuinely it's just too big to ignore. And I also don't buy the divisiveness of this. I know the people who don't like Barbie are obviously very, very loud, but Barbie, by whatever metric you look at, is a very well liked movie. And like I said, it's just too big to ignore. It is the movie of the year in terms of talk. Barbie and Oppenheimer. I think Barbie's in, which is kind of surprising to me. I don't think it's a lock like some people say, but it's in for now. I feel good about it. 8 Anatomy of a Fall. That is the Palme d'Or winner from Cannes. That's the quote international slot, even though I don't like designating just one film for international. But until the Academy shows they are more than willing to nominate more than one international movie, I have no choice but to abide. I just don't buy the zone of interest. I haven't seen it, obviously, but I don't like the sound of it in terms of the Academy, where they say it's experimental and it's not what people are expecting. And now I think I am seeing the flip, where a lot of people had the zone of interest. They are now kind of flipping towards Anatomy of a Fall. And I think that's the right call, because Anatomy of a Fall has a potential acting nominee or winner, a potential nominee or winner in screenplay. What does the zone of interest have? Like director for its vision? Like, okay, maybe a tech, maybe. I don't know. I'm excited to see them both at TIFF or New York or wherever I eventually see them, but I have Anatomy of a Fall for now. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, similarly to what I was talking about with Past Lives, where I think some people are overblowing the loss of steam on this movie. Once again, Barbenheimer is the biggest fucking thing. Of course, every other movie talk is just going to go down. This movie is so well liked and reviewed, and I even think critics will go for it still. I just can't, I can't see 10 movies above it. I don't know. Maybe I'm being blinded by my own personal love of the movie, which I genuinely love, but I don't know. I can't see it. We've been burned on animated movies before, but this is obviously not Pinocchio. Pinocchio started off really high. I saw it. I gave it like a 7 out of 10, and then the scores, as more people saw it, went down, and it kind of leveled out. Spider-Verse has been out for months. It is still one of the highest rated movies of the year. I still have it. 10 slot is very weird to me. And if I'm being real, like 3 out of the 10 slots here are very weird, but I'm just kind of filling it in. I am going with Maestro because I think about it. It's like, okay, makeup, that's probably winning. If makeup is winning, Bradley Cooper is certainly in contention to win for actor. Will Carey Mulligan get in? Does it have cinematography or costumes, a screenplay? And, once again, as I've said, I take test screenings. Like, I listen to it, I hear it, I take that into account, but I can't let it be the end-all, be-all. And at least as of now, like, clearly this is Netflix's biggest push. They released all the release dates for it. They obviously have something big planned for Maestro. Now, obviously, that doesn't matter. Sometimes we saw how it is with Bardo. And I'm completely open to Maestro being some cold, boring, dreadful, bad movie. Logic says you pick something from the Venice Film Festival, from Netflix or Searchlight, and you throw it in your best picture. That's just what logic says. I've been very open about Poor Things and how weird I think that is, even though I am coming around to it. We'll see. The Killer, as much as I love David Fincher, it might be my favorite director. That's one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Is it Academy friendly? I don't know. It's smart to just go with Maestro for now. You noticed that The Color Purple is missing. I'm sure you noticed it. And I don't know. I'm just, the Warner Brothers, one studio getting 3. It's pretty rare. It doesn't happen all the time, even though it has happened before. Gosh, there's not much to go off of here. There's playing no festivals, at least as of now. The trailer came out, which to me was very underwhelming outside of the performances. First time director for a feature film. I don't know. I don't know. This is just a hunch. I have nothing. I want all these movies to be good. I just personally find it hard to put 3 movies from Warner Brothers, even though that's not my exact logic. There are some other things holding me back. But that is a big one, and I think now with Barbie being a huge, huge success, like even bigger than I could have imagined, maybe their priorities does shift. I don't know. It's at number 11. 12 is Poor Things. I kind of mentioned it. I'm coming around to Poor Things being, more accessible than I think it is. I have not read the book, not planning to. I just assume it's a little too weird, and before I know Everything Everywhere, that had heart though. I don't know how much heart and emotion this will have, or how much it speaks to the immigrant family or something very universal like that. I don't know. Prove me wrong. That is also one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Do not get me wrong, but I'm just kind of writing off that. I still think it's a little too weird, but it's Searchlight. It's going to the main festivals that it should to show confidence. The release date is moved to a better one in December. I'm keeping my eye on it. 13 is Air, the little movie that just stays in the same fucking place. Once again, if it rides on Dune is delayed, Color Purple is delayed, some of these movies flop, do not be surprised if Air just floats on up to the top. 14 is The Killer, kind of going off of my logic from Maestro, where it makes sense to pick a Netflix or Searchlight movie from Venice. You look to The Killer also. David Fincher is one of the most well-respected and just straight up best directors around. It is thrillery though, like an assassin, which just doesn't feel like the Academy thing, which once again, I just don't understand. But the cast and crew behind it are really acclaimed and so I'm keeping my eye on that. That is one of my most anticipated for sure. 15 is the zone of interest. I kind of already talked about that, but there it is right there. 16 is Next Goal Wins. I think people's knives are out for this movie, and it might not matter. It might tank. It might win TIFF People's Choice. Really don't know. Jojo Rabbit didn't have great reviews, and it like won TIFF People's Choice. I know it's cool to hate on Taika right now, but keep my eye on it. Whatever. 17 May December. It still has potential for like a screenplay and some acting, so you got to leave it there. 18 is Naiad. That is just completely like, what if that is the huge surprise of TIFF and it wins TIFF People's Choice, or it places really high, or there's great reviews for it. I mean, the directors are Free Solo and The Rescue. I mean, come on. The other ones are A Shot in the Dark, The Nickel Boys. I don't have in any other category, but I need to hear that it is coming out this year because I haven't heard anything as of right now. I'm not playing at any festivals. Don't even know if it's coming out. I need to see more about that. And 20 is Ferrari, like the Neon acquisition, their highest ever, playing in New York, going to Venice. I don't know. Gotta keep my eye on Director, not much movement from the last time, at least in terms of the top 5. The top 5 are completely the same, except I flipped Christopher Nolan at number 1. It does feel like it's his time. Even if Oppenheimer doesn't win Director, it's hard to find someone really beating him, so I have him at 1, followed by the usuals, 2, 3, 4, Villeneuve, if it comes out, Scorsese. I still have Celine Song in for Past Lives, because if I think it's at number 2, I still have to have her in. That international slot, I'm sorry, I still have Justine Triet from Anatomy of a Fall or Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest. Greta Gerwig now doesn't feel that high for 7. I know last time I was like, that does feel a little high. But with how huge it is, I mean, if Barbie is like a real deal, it's right there. Emerald Fennell, same thing. Yorgos Lanthimos, If Poor Things does hit. And David Fincher, just because his movies like always get a nomination. Now, not necessarily for director. It usually has to be in picture for that, but, I don't think The Killer's going to get blanked either. Actress. Now, I know this makes no sense for having The Color Purple and Fantasia Barrino winning when I don't have it in picture, even though it's happened before. It's a little different. I'm kind of towing the lines in between it missing picture or it gets in picture. I'm kind of sparing it like that. So I still have her at number 1. Seems like the most, quote, accessible performance. A lot of singing, a lot of crying. They love their musical performances. I think she's at number 1. Sandra Hüller at 2, absolutely could win. Probably the Critics' Choice pick. And I am pretty close to flipping her to number 1, but we'll see. I don't want to jump the gun. 3 is Greta Lee. I just think she's kind of safe. I mean, I don't really know about safe, but she's just kind of there. She's there in the middle. It will really have to be other people are just great for it to flip. Annette Bening and Naiad. There is somewhat of a narrative, but, we'll kind of have to see about that. And I do have Margot Robbie in for Barbie. I mean, I kind of changed my tone on this. I think she should get nominated, absolutely. But it doesn't matter what I think should happen. What will happen? Once again, if Barbie is like that huge, it's hard to imagine her not going along with it. She has a great comedic performance. It was also very emotional. She has a great arc. I think people are kind of too dismissive of that because I know the focus is on Ryan Gosling. Emma Stone, just on the chance that it happens. I have Kate Winslet for Lee, which is also premiering at TIFF. I'm interested to see about that one. Carey Mulligan for Maestro. Maybe should be higher, but something about it is just telling me it's not. And also, will there be backlash for her casting, which is I have already seen before, so we'll see. Jessica Lange, Long Day's Journey into Night. If I knew this was coming out in like at TIFF or something, she would be in the top 5, no question. Maybe even a winning chance. I'm not even 100% sure if this movie is real or not. Where is it? Haven't heard anything about it. And then 10 is Natalie Portman for May December. Best Actor. So I admit, I think I was pretty early on the Cillian Murphy train, at least here on the YouTube space. I think I did that in April or March. I forget. I had him at number 1. Now that I've seen it, as much as I love it, and Oppenheimer is obviously a huge deal, man, it is a pretty reserved, introspective performance, but I'm keeping him at number 1. I can't back down now, even having seen it, and the movie lives up to what I thought it would be, if not surpassing it. But I do think he is in trouble for a more showy performance to kind of take him over, like Bradley Cooper or Paul Giamatti. And spoiler alert, I do have Maestro winning makeup, so maybe it does make sense to put Cooper at number 1, but I'll I'll figure that out the next time you see my predictions. Paul Giamatti, same deal. At the Holdovers is huge. I mean, if he just makes people cry and feel that good, like, it could happen. He also has a real narrative. Leonardo DiCaprio for Killers of the Flower Moon, he's just kind of there. We'll see. I mean, I hope people don't just like snub him for whatever reason. If this is truly a deserving performance, which from the people I've heard and talked to, they say it is. And 5, I have Coleman Domingo for Rustin, which I hear okay things about the movie. It's premiering at TIFF. We'll see. I do not like that everyone has the same 5 in whatever order. I don't like that. I don't like being a part of it. I don't like when I see it. But everyone is doing that same 5, which means it's not going to happen. So who can really mess it up? Barry Keoghan and Saltburn. I heard it's like a showcase for him. I heard he is amazing. We'll see. Michael Fassbender and The Killer. I could even do The Killer / Next Goal Wins. We'll see. Oddly enough, I feel like The Killer has kind of leapfrogged Next Goal Wins in most people's mind, but we'll see. He has 2 movies coming out that can only boost him up. 8 is Matt Damon. That I know that feels weird to say, and I wouldn't really have him there necessarily, but it's, once again, air is there. Air is just there. 9, Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction, immediately picked up some buzz as soon as it was announced it was going to TIFF. We'll have to see about that. I'm very curious about that one. And 10 is Kingsley Ben-Adir for Bob Marley, One Love, a movie that I'm confused on if it's actually having a qualified release date, which, why haven't they announced that yet? Supporting actress, once again, I do have to toe the line with The Color Purple. I did have Danielle Brooks in, flipped it for Lily Gladstone of Killers of the Flower Moon, then followed by the 2 Color Purple ladies, Divine Joy Randolph and Rosamund Pike in Saltburn. No difference in the top 5 from last month, except I just flipped the winner. And that's that. New addition, Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer at number 6. She is really good. I love Emily Blunt, and she's really good in her scenes, but there is just too much, like, the character is not written that well, and that's been a very loud criticism of the movie, where it doesn't give her much to do outside of like 1 or 2 scenes where people are like, oh, finally. But even with that being said, sometimes all you need is like a scene, and she definitely has a scene in arguably the biggest movie of the year, not in terms of money, but maybe in terms of talk or whatever. We'll see. Viola Davis. Air's there, like I said. Julianne Moore, May, December. Helena Bonham Carter in One Life, a movie that is also premiering at TIFF. I'm also keeping my eye on that. And Jodie Foster and Nyad. Supporting actor, here's my reasoning, okay? Robert Downey Jr. is amazing. He has a narrative. If he feels almost overdue, he has a whole career for it, and he is amazing in Oppenheimer. But to me, I think, depending on who you ask, there are so many good supporting actor performances in Oppenheimer. I'm not sure if it'll be enough to kind of push him towards a win. Now, maybe even if you think the best performance is Jason Clarke or David Krumholtz or Benny Safdie, like whoever, maybe they'll just be like, okay, like clearly we're just going for Robert Downey Jr. Let's just fall in line. We'll push him. Like Chicago 7, even though not to that same extent. Sacha Baron Cohen, we're just following in line. We're just going to push him. If that happens, sure, he can absolutely win. I'm writing out the fact that that doesn't happen, and even though I do think he'll get in, and he is awesome, I don't know if it'll be enough for a win, whereas almost everyone universally is like Ryan Gosling is amazing in Barbie. It is a comedic performance, and he does sing and dance, and he's kind of playing a silly little goofball, but like, goddamn, like, why can't I just wish this, huh? Why can't I just make this happen? Plus, I have Barbie in picture, so I do have it being taken seriously here, and the Academy is forever changing. Maybe they are more open to a comedic performance. But it is tough. It is tough, not to mention De Niro in Killers of the Flower Moon. You may have heard of him. We'll see about that one. The rest, I really have no clue. No clue what to do. Charles Mountain for May, December. That feels weird that he is the only one I have in the top 5. But that goes to show I have no idea what to do in supporting actor. And I still have John Majaro in for Past Lives. Then I have Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things, where I do think I need to have someone from Poor Things. Don't really know who. I think the word on the street is Mark Ruffalo has the higher role. Dominic Sessa, the kid in The Holdovers. We'll see. We'll see if that's a real thing or not. Coleman Domingo in The Color Purple, that might be a little too low for people. I don't know. Just, once again, towing the line between Color Purple. Glenn Howerton, Andrea Riseborough, I guess, and Richard E. Grant for Saltburn, who I hear has somewhat of a good role, but I don't know if people are just lying to me. Original screenplay, I don't think anything has really changed here. I still have Air in over some Best Picture players like Maestro or whatever, but I'm just going to keep it in because why not? I don't know. I got to have something different. Shout out to Fair Play also. Adapted. I don't have Barbie winning Adapted. Adapted is a little tough, to be honest, because I don't know who I would have for a number 1. Right now, I still have Killers of the Flower Moon. If Barbie wins Adapted Screenplay, then like, holy shit, then maybe it is really like a top 5 contender, or it certainly would be if it won Screenplay. I don't have that right now. I have Killers, Oppenheimer, then Barbie, then Dune. And I do have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. If I have it in picture, I need to give it something outside of animated feature. Then, you have Next Goal Wins, Poor Things. Musicals just really have a hard time getting into screenplay unless you're La La Land, shout out. The Killer, Long Day's Journey into Night, still hanging on there. Cinematography, last time we talked, I said that I wanted to have Oppenheimer at 1, but then I saw the trailer for Dune and I flipped it because it looks undeniable. I still absolutely agree with that. Having said that, kind of like the Avatar example, sometimes it just doesn't matter and they just won't give it to you again. So Oppenheimer is the new number 1 for cinematography. I mean, they literally made new black and white IMAX. I mean, it's kind of hard to beat with that. Dune Part 2, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, The Killer, and then you see the rest there. Honestly, this is always usually a good category. Last year it got a little weird. Costume design, Barbie, Lock It Up, Turn in the Key, Lock It Up. That should absolutely win. Killer still, Dune, Color Purple, and Napoleon. If Poor Things is in picture, then it opens the door for a lot of categories for Poor Things. But since I don't have it in right now, it's always on the bubble. Shout out to Wonka also. Editing, spoiler alert, Oppenheimer's number 1 in sound, so there you go. Dune's still there, Killers are still there, The Holdovers, and I was debating between The Killer and Ferrari, and I just ended up going with The Killer. There are some times where editing isn't solely just a best picture category. Makeup and hair, Maestro is number 1, which makes me want to put Bradley Cooper at number 1, but I'll hold off on that still. Dune, Guardians, that feels good. Then I go into the more prosthetic-y stuff with Poor Things, A Different Man, the Sebastian Stan one, if that is coming out. Oppenheimer, I've seen some complaints about the makeup, but, you know, whatever, it's still there. Golda, also prosthetics. Barbie, Priscilla, Napoleon. Who knows? Production design, I have Barbie winning also. That would be freaking awesome. Barbie Land, please let it happen. Oppenheimer, Killers, Dune, Color Purple. That also feels good. Then you get to the Poor Things, Asteroid City, Napoleon. Saltburn, which just from the pictures looked pretty good to me. So I'll kind of have to keep my eye on that also. Once again, shout out Wonka. Sound, Oppenheimer still. I mean, the Trinity test is unbelievable. So there you have that. Dune, musical in the Color Purple, racing movie in Ferrari. And I have Spider-Verse also. Man, that feels tough now that I'm looking at it. We'll leave it in for now. Then I have Killers. Or I guess both Killers right there. Napoleon, War Movie, Lee, War Movie, John Wick Chapter 4, let me have it. Visual effects, Dune, that's locked up. Oppenheimer, I guess we are just kind of saying, here you go with the visual effects. I get it, sure. The Creator, I think, is also one to look out for. I mean, especially with the budget. I forget what was the budget, like $80 million or something like that? Something crazy. And it looks fantastic. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm still kind of riding on the Dungeons and Dragons as that weird pick that just gets in. That might be a mistake. But, you know, Indiana Jones for the de-aging, Spider-Verse, Spaceman, Mission Impossible, Little Mermaid. There's a lot of choices here. Original score, Ludwig Göransson wins again. That would be crazy if he won again, like so early for his second one. But it's that. I still have Spider-Verse in because I just think that score is just amazing. I hope people don't forget that. Dune Part 2 is still there. I do think Past Lives will go in. That feels like an Everything Everywhere type thing where people don't really shout it out when they first see it, but when they rewatch it, it really sticks out, and it does. And then I have Killers right there. The Boy and the Heron, The Killer, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, Elemental. You can never doubt John Williams. We'll see. Original song, What Was I Made For Barbie is just at number 1 for now. That's kind of a placeholder slot. I don't know if they'd give Billie Eilish another one so fast, but we'll see. A song from Wish, something from The Color Purple, a Diane Warren slot, and then something from Wonka. I'm really interested in how I'm Just Ken does, or what Barbie does submit for the songs, because technically they have 3 they could do, but we'll kind of see it there. You can see the rest. I really don't believe in Peaches yet. Animated feature, Spider-Verse at number 1, Boy and the Heron at number 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I still have Chicken Run, and I have Elemental, especially now that Elemental has kind of been a box office story, you know, that it started off with the worst Pixar opening ever. Now it's like over $400 million or whatever, so I have that. Wish is at number 6. Wish, I just have that same feeling I had with Strange World, where everyone else had it, so I just had it and tagged along. I don't know. Nimona could happen also. Documentary, I really know nothing about these documentaries right now, but from my research, this is what I found. Beyond Utopia seems to be like the number 1 pick, though. In international, whatever one gets nominated in picture is going to win here, so I have Anatomy of Fallout 1. You can see down there Boy and the Heron and Monster for Japan. Depending on what they do, I'll have to see about that. But yeah, that's kind of it. I know I went through that really fast, but you know, you can always pause and see the list here. Once again, this is the last one until October because I will not be able to do it in September. I'll be way too busy because I'll be at TIFF. I'm planning also to live stream before I go to TIFF sometime later this month, so look out for that. But yeah, these predictions, who knows anything? Just take a shot in the dark, you know? I'll see you on the next one.